There are silences that weigh more than any scream. I was on that cold stretcher with my body broken and my heart even worse. The lights of the operating room flickered above my head while I listened to the doctor talking on the phone. His voice was urgent, professional, and almost desperate. "Mr. Ethan, your mother had a serious accident. We need your authorization for emergency surgery. It is a matter of life or death." Silence. Then the voice of my son, clear and cold, as if he were rejecting a sales call. "I am at my mother-in-law's birthday party. If she dies, let me know later." The doctor stood motionless. I did too. It was not the pain of the broken ribs that made me close my eyes. It was hearing those words come out of the mouth of the boy I carried for 9 months, whom I nursed during sleepless nights, whom I hugged every time he was afraid. "If she dies, let me know later," as if I were a pending transaction, a call that can wait, something to be resolved tomorrow. My name is Eleanor Costilla. I am 59 years old. And that night on that stretcher, while the doctors rushed to save my life, I understood something that no mother should have to learn. Raising a son does not guarantee that he sees you as human. But there is something my son Ethan did not know. Something that no one in that emergency room knew except the doctor holding my hand while they prepared me for surgery. I was not just a mother abandoned in a hospital. I was the owner of that hospital. And when I woke up hours later with my body stitched up and my soul split in two, the doctor leaned toward me and whispered something that made me open my eyes for real. "Your son does not know who you really are, does he?" I smiled, barely. Because in that moment I knew everything was about to change. But to tell you how I got here, I need to go back to the beginning, to the day when everything seemed perfect. To the day when I believed that a mother's love could conquer everything. How wrong I was. Sometimes we trust too much in those we should not. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Let me take you to a time when my life smelled of fresh coffee and gardenias from the garden. 25 years ago, when Ethan was just 5 years old, I would get up every morning at 6. Not because I had to, but because I loved those moments of silence before the house woke up. I would sit on the back patio of our house in Highland Park with my white porcelain cup in my hands and watch the sun turn the vines on the stone wall. Golden. My husband Robert was still sleeping at those hours. He worked late at his corporate law firm, and I managed the family fortune I inherited from my father. Dad was a doctor. A brilliant visionary man who founded St. Raphael's Hospital when I was just 12 years old. He started with 20 beds and a dream. Excellent medical care for families who wanted the best treatment. When he died, I was 28 and had just given birth to Ethan. He left me everything. The hospital, the properties, the investments. My older brother August received only a minor portion. Dad was clear in his will. Eleanor has my vision. She will know how to multiply what I built. August never forgave me for that. But that is another story. I dedicated myself to raising Ethan while running the hospital from the shadows. I hired the best administrators. We modernized the operating rooms. We brought specialists from Houston and New York. St. Raphael's Hospital became a national reference. But no one knew that I was behind it. I was Mrs. Costilla, the wife of attorney Robert, the mother who took her son to swimming lessons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the woman who organized the Christmas parties and baked pumpkin pies in October. Robert insisted on that from the beginning of our marriage. "Eleanor, a woman of your position, should not be showing off business. Let the men handle the public face. You are too valuable to expose yourself to criticism." I accepted because I loved him. Because I believed that protecting my family was more important than any public recognition. Ethan grew up surrounded by comforts that he believed came from his father's work. The 4-story house, the vacations in the Hamptons, his private Swiss school, the Mercedes we gave him. When he turned 18, I never told him the truth. I never told him that every dollar that paid for his education came from my inheritance, from my silent work, from my financial decisions that multiplied the family assets 5 times in 2 decades. I wanted him to be happy. I did not want him to carry the weight of knowing that his mother was more than a housewife. I just wanted him to enjoy being my son. I remember a Sunday afternoon. Ethan was maybe 7 years old. We were in the garden. He was chasing yellow butterflies among the rose bushes. He tripped and scraped his knee. He came running to me, crying with those brown eyes full of tears. I hugged him. I cleaned the wound. I kissed his forehead. Mom is always going to take care of you, my love. Always, no matter what happens. He hugged me so tight I felt his heart beat against my chest. I love you, Mommy. You are the best mom in the world. I kept that moment like one keeps a jewel. I thought it would be eternal. The years passed like the seasons pass. Ethan grew up. He became a teenager, then a young adult. He studied business administration at a top university. He met Valerie when he was 23. She was pretty, I will not deny it. Blonde, thin, one of those who know how to smile at the exact moment. She came from a family with money, but not as much as us. Her father owned a chain of restaurants. From the first day, I felt something strange. It was not jealousy. It was intuition, the way Valerie looked at me when I spoke, as if she were evaluating me, as if I were an obstacle she needed to get around to reach something bigger. Mrs. Eleanor, what a beautiful house you have, she told me the first time she came to dinner. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes scanned every painting, every piece of furniture, every detail, as if she were taking inventory. Thank you, Valerie. We've been very happy here, I replied, pouring her more iced tea. Ethan was infatuated. He looked at her as if she were the only woman in the world. Robert, my husband, was delighted. Finally, Ethan found a woman from a decent family, not like those girls without education he brought before. I stayed silent. I always stayed silent when Robert spoke like that. Valerie began to visit more often, always kind, always correct. But I noticed small things. How she diverted the conversation every time I mentioned my work in charity foundations. How she changed the subject if I spoke about my studies in economics. How she subtly suggested to Ethan that they spend Sundays with her family instead of with me. It is just that my mom misses Ethan a lot, Mrs. Eleanor. You understand, right? A mother always wants her children close. She smiled. I smiled too. But inside, something began to break. One day I found Ethan in the living room looking at his phone with a frown. Is everything okay, my love? He looked up. For a second, I saw the boy who chased butterflies, but then his expression changed. Mom Valerie and I are thinking of getting married next year. My heart skipped a beat, not of joy, of fear. That is beautiful, son. I am very pleased. I lied. For the first time in my life, I lied to my son about what I felt, because a mother should not be selfish. A mother should be happy when her son finds love, right? That night, while Robert slept beside me, snoring softly, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in 25 years, I felt that something was about to change, something that I could not control, something that was going to cost me much more than I ever imagined. But I still did not know what. I still believed that a mother's love was enough to keep everything in place. How innocent I was. While I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. There are fractures that are not seen with the naked eye, like those fine cracks in china that you only notice when you hold the cup up to the light. That is how my relationship with Ethan began to break. So slowly, so subtle, that at first I thought it was my imagination. The wedding was held in the garden of a vineyard in Napa Valley. 300 guests, white flowers everywhere, a live band at sunset. I paid for everything, of course. $200,000 that came out of my personal account, but that Ethan and Valerie appreciated as if it had been a joint effort of Robert and me. Robert signed the checks. I transferred the money. No one asked where it really came from. I remember the moment Ethan and Valerie exchanged rings. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting everything orange and pink. My son looked so handsome in his gray suit, so happy. I cried. All mothers cry at their children's weddings, but my tears were not just of joy. They were of farewell because something inside me knew I was losing my son in a way I could never recover. Valerie looked radiant in her French lace dress. When she passed by me on the way to the altar, she took my hand and whispered, "Thanks for everything, mother-in-law. I am going to take very good care of Ethan, mother-in-law. Not Mrs. Eleanor, not Eleanor, mother-in-law. As if I were no longer a complete person, just a role, a label, the mother of the groom." I smiled. I squeezed her hand. "I know you will, daughter." Another lie. After the wedding, the newlyweds moved into an apartment downtown that I helped them furnish. Well helped is an understatement. I paid the down payment, I paid for the furniture, I paid for the German kitchen Valerie wanted. It is just that we are starting. Mrs. Eleanor Valerie explained to me one afternoon while we drank coffee in my living room. Ethan has barely been at his dad's company for 2 years. We still do not earn enough to give ourselves these luxuries. But you know how this is, right? You have to keep up appearances. Keep up appearances. I gave her the money, without a peep. The first few months after the wedding, Ethan still came to visit me on Sundays. He arrived alone without Valerie, and we had lunch together on the patio like when he was a child. And Valerie? I would ask him while serving him pot roast, his favorite. She is with her mom. You know how women are, they need their time together. I nodded. I served more rice, but the visits became spaced out. First it was every 2 weeks, then once a month, then only on special dates. "Mom, we are very busy with work and the new house. Mom, Valerie does not feel well. I think she ate something that disagreed with her. Mom, we have a dinner with Val's parents. You know we have to strengthen family ties." Every excuse was reasonable. Every justification made sense. But the void grew. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to visit him without warning. I was carrying a container with pulled pork that I had prepared especially for Ethan. I knew it was his favorite dish, the one that reminded him of family vacations when he was little. I rang the doorbell of his apartment 3 times. I heard footsteps inside, voices, laughter. Valerie opened the door. Her smile froze when she saw me. "Mrs. Eleanor, what a surprise." She did not say what a pleasure or what joy. She said what a surprise with the same tone you would use if you found a roach in your kitchen. "Hello, daughter. I was passing by and brought you some pork. I know Ethan loves it." She stood in the doorframe without inviting me in. "Oh, Mrs. Eleanor, what a shame. Right now we have visitors. Ethan's parents." "Well, my parents are here having dinner with us." Ethan's parents. I was Ethan's mom, but she referred to her own parents as Ethan's parents, as if they were the real family, as if I were a stranger. "I understand," I said, extending the container. "Just give this to Ethan, okay?" She took the container as if I were handing her something contaminated. "Sure, thanks. Ethan will call you later." She closed the door. I stayed there, standing in the hallway with the echo of that door closing, bouncing in my ears. I went back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat. I did not start it. I took out my phone and dialed Ethan. Voicemail. I dialed again. Voicemail. I waited 15 minutes, half an hour, an hour. He never called. That night, Robert arrived late, as always. I was in the kitchen preparing chamomile tea that I was not going to drink. "What is wrong with you, Eleanor? You look like you were at a funeral." "Nothing. I just miss Ethan." Robert sighed, loosening his tie. "Oh, woman. Ethan is already a married man. He has his own life. You cannot be glued to him as if he were still a child. That is not healthy." He kissed me on the forehead, an automatic kiss without feeling. "You should find yourself a hobby, something that distracts you. I do not know, take yoga classes or join a book club." He went up the stairs toward our room. I stayed there with my cold tea and my heart even colder. A hobby? I ran a hospital. I supervised million-dollar investments. I made decisions that affected hundreds of employees and thousands of patients. But for my husband, I was a bored woman who needed distraction. because her son no longer visited her. The months kept passing. Ethan's calls became shorter, more sporadic. "Hi, Mom. Yes, everything is fine. Busy. Call you later." Click. On my 57th birthday, I waited all day for Ethan to come visit me. He arrived at 8 at night with Valerie. They brought a cake from the grocery store, one of those generic ones they sell already decorated. "Happy birthday, Mom," said Ethan, giving me a quick hug. "Congratulations, mother-in-law," said Valerie, kissing the air next to my cheek. They stayed 30 minutes. They ate cake. Valerie checked her phone 3 times. "My love, it is getting late." We agreed to have dinner with my parents at 9. Ethan looked at his watch. "That is true." "Sorry, Mom, but we have to go. Can't you stay a little longer?" I asked, hating the pleading tone in my voice. "We already made plans, Mom, but it was very nice. Happy birthday." They left. I sat in my dining room with half a cake on the table and the little candles blown out. Robert had not even come down. He was in his study on a video conference. I cried that night. I cried like I had not cried since my father died, because I understood something terrible. I had raised a son for the world, and the world was taking him from me. Little by little, visit by visit, excuse after excuse, and I did not know how to stop it. 2 months later, Valerie announced she was pregnant. I should have been happy. I was going to be a grandmother. But when Ethan gave me the news over the phone, the first thing he said was, "Mom?" "Val's mom is going to stay with us the first 3 months to help with the baby. You know, she has more recent experience with small children, more experience. I had raised Ethan alone while managing a medical empire, but Valerie's mother, who had a maid for everything, had more experience. Sure, son, whatever you need." I hung up the phone, and for the first time I allowed a dark thought to cross my mind. At what moment did I become invisible to my own son? At what moment did I stop being Eleanor Castilla, the woman who built everything and became just Mom? A mom who is in the way, who is extra, who needs to find a hobby. I did not know it then, but I was about to find out in the cruelest way possible. Because invisible cracks, when they finally break, destroy everything. There are things a mother prefers not to see, like when your 3-year-old hides a broken toy behind the sofa, and you pretend not to have noticed because you want to believe it was an accident, not a lie. That is how I started living, pretending not to notice. When my grandson, Sammy, was born, I was in the waiting room of St. Raphael's Hospital. My own hospital, although Ethan did not know it. Ironic, right? Valerie had insisted on giving birth there because it was the best private hospital in the city. I paid the salary of the obstetrician who attended her. I had approved the remodeling of the maternity suites 5 years ago, but I was there as a grandmother. Just as a grandmother. Ethan came out of the delivery room with shining eyes, shirt wrinkled, that smile I had not seen on his face since he was a child. "Mom, it is a boy. His name is Sammy. He weighs 7 pounds. He is perfect." I hugged him. He smelled of sweat and happiness. "Congratulations, my love. I am so proud of you. Do you want to meet him?" "Of course I do." I entered the room. Valerie was lying down, pale but radiant, with the baby in her arms. Next to her, her mother, Mrs. Christine, was caressing the newborn's head with an almost religious devotion. Look at that, my beautiful grandson, just like Valerie when she was born. Those little eyes, that little nose. Valerie smiled. "Mom says, 'He has your mouth, love,'" she told Ethan. No one mentioned that the baby looked like me. I got closer. I extended my arms. "Can I hold him?" Valerie hesitated. Just a second. But I noticed. Of course, Mrs. Eleanor, only he, is very delicate. You have to support his little head well, as if I did not know how to hold a baby, as if I had not held Ethan 1,000 times. I took Sammy in my arms. He was warm, soft, perfect. He smelled of that mixture of powder and milk that all newborns have. I felt a wave of love so strong that my chest hurt. "Hello, my heaven. I am your Grandma Eleanor." Mrs. Christine cleared her throat. "Well, actually, we are going to call me Grandma Chris and Grandpa Charles, so he does not get confused with so many names. Right, Valerie?" Valerie nodded. Yes, Mom. That way is easier for the baby. And I asked, although I already knew the answer. You can be, I don't know, Grandma Ellie, or simply Eleanor, whatever you prefer. Grandma Ellie. Not even a complete grandmother, just Ellie. As if my name were too long, too important, too much. Sure, I said. Whatever you prefer. I returned the baby. I left the room with an excuse about traffic. In the hospital elevator, a nurse recognized me. Mrs. Costilla, what a pleasure to see you. Is everything okay? Yes, Lucy. Everything is fine. I just met my grandson. What a blessing. Congratulations. I smiled, but inside something was rotting. I decided it did not matter, that the important thing was to be present. So I did what grandmothers do. I bought baby clothes. I ordered an Italian wicker bassinet. I hired a nutritionist to design special menus for Valerie while nursing. I sent everything to her apartment, sometimes with a note, sometimes only with the sender's name. Ethan would call me to thank me. Thanks, Mom. The bassinet is beautiful. Thanks, Mom. The clothes you sent are very good quality, but they never invited me to visit them. It is just that Sammy is still very little, Mom. The pediatrician says he should not have much exposure to visits because of his immune system. It is just that we are on a very strict sleep routine, Mom. If someone comes, everything gets out of control. It is just that the house is a mess, Mom. Better in a few weeks. Weeks turned into months. I saw my grandson in photos that Valerie uploaded to Instagram. Sammy with Grandma Chris. Sammy with Grandpa Charles. Sammy in the garden of Valerie's parents' house. I did not appear in any photo. One afternoon, I could not take it anymore. I bought a carrot cake at the bakery Ethan liked and showed up at his apartment. I rang the bell. Valerie opened. She was carrying Sammy in a sling. Mrs. Eleanor, we did not know you were coming. That is why it is a surprise daughter. I brought cake. I thought we could have coffee together. She hesitated. She looked back. It is just that right now Sammy is about to take his nap, and if he does not sleep at this time, he gets out of control all night. I can wait for you to put him to sleep. I am in no hurry. Oh, Mrs. Eleanor, it is just that afterward I have to prepare dinner, and then my mom is coming to help me with the baby's bath. Everything is very timed. Do you understand? I understood perfectly. I understood that I was in the way. Sure. Just, can I give Sammy a kiss? She sighed as if I were asking for something impossible. Okay, but quick, because he gets agitated. I got closer. Sammy was asleep against his mother's chest. I kissed his forehead. He smelled of lavender and milk. Goodbye, my love, I whispered. Valerie was already closing the door. Thanks for the cake, Mrs. Eleanor. Ethan will call you later. The door closed. I stood there in that hallway that smelled of reheated food and cheap air freshener, carrying my purse and my broken pride. Ethan never called. I started accepting crumbs. A call every 2 weeks, a visit every 2 months. A hello, Mom, we are fine. We love you that sounded like a learned script. Robert told me I was exaggerating. Eleanor. Ethan has his family. It is normal for him to spend more time with his wife and son. Stop being so intense, so intense. Me, who had swallowed my voice for 30 years to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the invisible woman who supported everything without asking for credit. I was so intense. I started going to the hospital more often. I participated in board meetings that I previously delegated. I personally reviewed financial statements. I walked through the halls, talking to doctors and nurses. I needed to feel useful. I needed to remember that I was someone other than a rejected grandmother. Dr. Myers, the medical director, stopped me one day in the administration hallway. Mrs. Costilla, what a pleasure to have you here more often. Is everything okay? Yes, doctor. I just needed to keep busy. He looked at me with those wise eyes of someone who has seen too much pain. Sometimes children forget who we really are, but life has ways of reminding them. I did not understand what he meant at that moment, but I would understand soon. On Sammy's second birthday, I received an invitation via WhatsApp. Sammy's birthday party. Sunday, 3 p.m. Sunflowers Event Garden. Confirm attendance. A group message. Impersonal, as if it were a wedding invitation from someone you barely know. I arrived early. I was carrying a huge gift. A bicycle with training wheels that I had imported from Germany. $300. Plus shipping. The garden was decorated with blue and white balloons. There was a long table full of food, clowns, a bouncy castle, and at the main table, huge photos of Sammy, with Grandma Chris, with Grandpa Charles, with Valerie and Ethan. Not a single photo with me. It was as if I did not exist in my grandson's life. Valerie greeted me with her catalog smile. "Mrs. Eleanor, what a pleasure. Look, sit over here with Ethan's aunts." She sat me at a side table, far from the family, far from the birthday boy. During the whole party, I watched how Mrs. Christine carried Sammy, how she fed him cake, how she cleaned his little face. I was 15 feet away, but I could have been in another country. When it was time to open gifts, Sammy opened mine last. "Look, my love, your Grandma Eleanor brought you a bicycle," said Valerie with a singing voice. Sammy did not even look at me. He was 2 years old. He did not know who I was. For him, I was a stranger who appeared every now and then with expensive gifts. That night, in my empty house, I sat on the patio where I used to drink coffee 25 years ago. The gardenias did not smell the same anymore, or maybe it was me who had changed. I took out my phone. I dialed Ethan. It rang 5 times. Voicemail. I dialed again. Voicemail. A 3rd time. Finally, he answered. "Mom, what is happening? It is extremely late. It was 9 at night. I just wanted to know if you got home okay, and thank you for inviting me to Sammy's party." Silence. "Yes, Mom. Everything is fine. Hey, I'm very tired. Talk tomorrow?" "Sure, son. Rest." He hung up. I stayed there with the phone in my hand and a knot in my throat. I was losing my son. And the worst was that I had allowed it to happen. Smile after smile, silence after silence, accepting crumbs as if they were banquets, because a good mother does not complain. A good mother is not in the way. A good mother makes herself tiny so her children have room to grow, right? But that night, looking at the stars that were barely visible due to the city pollution, I asked myself, at what moment did being a good mother mean disappearing? I had no answer. Not yet, but I was about to find it in the most painful way possible. I still ask myself if I did the right thing by staying quiet for so long. And you? What would you have done in my place? They say the truth always leaves traces, like the breadcrumbs children leave in stories to find their way back home. Only sometimes those crumbs lead us to places we preferred not to know. It all started with a call from the bank. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in my office at the hospital reviewing quarterly reports when my private cell phone rang. The number only my family and financial advisors knew. Mrs. Costilla. Yes, it is me. This is Richard Montes from the Corporate Accounts Department. Excuse the bother, but we have a situation that requires your authorization. My heart skipped a beat. What kind of situation? Your son, Mr. Ethan Castilla, requested access to the business credit line you keep for family emergencies. The amount he is requesting is $500,000. My mouth went dry. $500,000? Yes, ma'am, he mentioned it was for an urgent investment. But since you are the account holder and have left instructions that any withdrawal greater than $100,000 requires your direct approval, we are calling to confirm. $500,000? Can I call him and confirm with you later? Of course, ma'am. You have until tomorrow to authorize or reject the request. I hung up. I sat there staring at the phone as if it were a grenade about to explode. Ethan needed $500,000 and had told me nothing. I dialed his number. Voicemail. I dialed again. Voicemail. I wrote him a message. Son, can we talk? It is important. 3 hours later, he replied, busy mom. What do you need? I need to talk to you about something from the bank. Can you call me? Is it urgent? I am in a meeting. Yes, it is urgent. Okay, I will call you tonight. The night arrived. 7:89. At 10:30, my phone rang. "Hi, Mom. Sorry, time got away from me." "What happened?" "The bank called me. They said you requested $500,000 from the family credit line." Silence. Then his voice uncomfortable. "Oh yes, it is for a business and investment that came up. A very good opportunity." "What kind of investment, son?" "It is complicated to explain over the phone, Mom. But trust me, okay? It is something safe. Valerie's dad got me into the business. Restaurants very profitable. Valerie's dad. And why didn't you consult me before requesting it?" Another silence. "Because I knew you were going to do exactly this. Questions and more questions. Mom, I am not a child anymore. I know what I am doing. Ethan, it is $500,000. It is a lot of money. Money that is mine too, right? I mean, it is family money." I froze. "What do you mean it is yours?" "Well, someday I am going to inherit all that, right? So technically, I am using what will eventually be mine." I felt as if I had been slapped. "Ethan, look. Mom, I do not have time for this. Are you going to authorize the loan or not? I need more information. I need to see the business plan, the contracts. I cannot believe this. My own mother does not trust me. It is not a lack of trust, son. It is financial responsibility. You know what? Forget it. I will find a way to get the money. Thanks for nothing." He hung up. I stood with the phone in my hand, shaking. My son had just hung up on me. For money. The next day, I rejected the loan authorization. Ethan did not speak to me for 2 weeks. When he finally did, it was by text message. "I lost the investment. Hope you are happy." I was not happy. I was devastated. But something else was happening. A week later, I received a call from my accountant, Mr. Estrada. "Mrs. Eleanor, I need to inform you of something. We have detected unusual movements in one of the corporate accounts." "What kind of movements?" "Small withdrawals, but frequent. $5,000 here, $8,000 there. They total approximately $120,000 in the last 6 months." My stomach turned. "Who is making those withdrawals?" "Your husband, attorney Robert Castilla. He has access to that account as a co-holder." "Robert? And are those withdrawals for household expenses?" "They do not match any invoice or registered expense. They appear to be cash withdrawals. $120,000 in cash. Thanks, Mr. Estrada. I will investigate." That night, I waited for Robert to arrive. He came in at 11 at night, like always. Tie loosened, face tired. "Robert, I need to talk to you." "Now?" "I am dead, Eleanor. It is important." He sighed. He collapsed onto the living room armchair. "What is it?" "My accountant informed me that you have withdrawn $120,000 in cash from the corporate accounts." "What for?" He went pale. "Just a second. But I saw it. They are office expenses. You know, sometimes clients prefer to pay in cash, and I need to handle those types of transactions. $120,000 in 6 months? Eleanor, I am not going to report to you as if you were my boss. I am your husband, and that money is mine, from my inheritance." He got up from the armchair. His face changed. There was something there I had never seen before. Something ugly. "Ah, I see. So now, it turns out, everything is yours. The money is yours. The house is yours. And what am I? Your employee. It is not that, Robert. You know what your problem is, Eleanor? That you have never known how to be a real wife. Always thinking about business, about money, about control. That is why Ethan is the way he is. What do you mean by that? That you suffocated him so much when he was a child that now he wants to be as far away from you as possible. And I do not blame him. The words pierced me like bullets. Robert, I am going to sleep. And I do not want to keep talking about this. He went up the stairs. I stayed there in the living room where I had raised my son, where I had celebrated Christmases and birthdays, where I had built what I thought was a family, and for the first time I wondered if I really knew the people living under my roof. The following days were strange. Robert avoided talking to me more than necessary. Ethan still did not call. And I started noticing things, small things, like the fact that Robert went out to the office on Saturday afternoons when his office was closed, like his phone was always face down on tables, like he had started using a different cologne, more expensive, younger. One afternoon, I gathered my courage and checked his jackets. In the inside pocket of his navy blue blazer, I found a receipt. Marquis, Hotel Executive Suite. 2 nights. Last week. When he told me he had a lawyers' conference in Chicago, I sat on the floor of our closet with that receipt in my hands. 30 years of marriage. And it was all a lie. I did not cry. I had no tears left. I called my friend Lenore, the only person I could trust, Leo. I need you to do me a favor. Whatever you need, Ellie. I need you to recommend a private investigator. Discreet. Silence on the other end. Oh, friend, are you sure? Yes, I will send you the contact. I hired the investigator that same week. I gave him photos of Robert, his schedule, his car license plates. I want to know where he goes. With whom? Everything. Understood, ma'am. In 2 weeks you will have a full report. 2 weeks that felt like 2 years. Meanwhile, I tried to talk to Ethan one more time. I texted him, "Son, can we have lunch together? Just you and me," like before. He replied 6 hours later. This week I am very complicated, Mom. Better next month. Next month. As if I were a medical appointment that can be rescheduled, as if I were an annoying obligation. I decided to go to Ethan's apartment without warning. One last time. I needed to look him in the eye. I needed to ask him what had happened to us. I rang the bell. Once. Twice. I heard voices inside. Laughter. Valerie opened the door. This time she did not even pretend kindness. "Mrs. Eleanor, Ethan is not here. What time does he return?" "I do not know. He went out with my dad. Business things. And Sammy? Sleeping. Can I go in to see him sleep?" "Just a moment." Valerie sighed, as if I were asking for a kidney. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I think we need to set boundaries." My blood froze. Boundaries? Yes. You come over a lot without notice. You call at all hours. Ethan and I feel that you are being a little invasive. Invasive, me. The mother who paid for everything, who gave everything, who made herself invisible so they could shine. Invasive. I understand. I said with a voice I did not recognize as mine. "I will not bother you again. Do not get like that, ma'am. It is just that—" I said I understood. I turned around. I walked to the elevator. Behind me, I heard the door close. I got into my car. I started it. And while I drove down the avenue with the city lights blurring through the tears that finally fell, I understood something. I was not losing my son. I had already lost him. A long time ago. Only I had been too cowardly to admit it. 3 days later, the detective called me. "Mrs. Castilla, I have the report. Do you prefer I send it or we meet in person?" "In person." We met at a discreet coffee shop. He handed me a manila envelope thick. "It is not easy what is inside there, ma'am. Are you sure you want to open it?" "Yes." I opened the envelope. Photographs. Dozens of photographs. Robert entering a hotel. Robert with a woman of about 30. Robert kissing her in a restaurant. Robert with his hand on her waist. I felt nauseous. "Who is she?" "Her name is Paula Sandoval, legal assistant at your husband's firm, 26 years old, single. She lives in an apartment in a trendy area that, according to our records, was rented 8 months ago." "By whom?" "By your husband, in the name of a shell company, with my money." Robert was supporting his mistress with my money. I closed the envelope. "Thank you. How much do I owe you?" "It is already paid. $2,000. I gave him the money in cash. I went back to my car, and there, sitting in the parking lot of that coffee shop, surrounded by normal people living their normal lives, I felt how everything I knew was crumbling. My husband was cheating on me. My son rejected me. My daughter-in-law hated me. And I had allowed it all. every humiliation, every slight, every lie. Because a good woman does not make scenes, a good mother does not complain, a good wife trusts. But those rules had only turned me into a fool, into an invisible woman, usable, disposable. I started the car, and while I drove back to my empty house, to my empty life, something inside me began to change. It was small still, a spark barely, but it was there. Rage. Pure rage. I still did not know what I was going to do with it, but for the first time in 30 years, I felt something besides pain. I felt power, and that although I did not know it, then was the beginning of the end, or of the true beginning. There are truths that arrive disguised as accidents, like that Thursday afternoon when my life changed forever. It had been a week since I discovered Robert's affair, a week in which I feigned normality while rage and pain consumed me inside. I got up, got dressed, went to the hospital, came home, ate dinner alone because Robert always had pending work. Now I knew that pending work was 26 years old and named Paula, but I stayed silent. Because I still did not know what to do. Because a part of me, the cowardly part that had lived 30 years being invisible, was afraid to break the little that remained. That afternoon, I left the hospital later than usual. I had had a complicated meeting with the directors of the oncology department. Budgets, new treatments, negotiations with suppliers. It was almost 7 in the evening when I got into my Mercedes. The streets were wet. It had rained in the afternoon, that fine rain that makes everything shine, but also makes everything slippery. I was driving, thinking about nothing and everything. About Robert, about Ethan, about Valerie, about Sammy, my grandson who did not know me, about the woman I had become. I did not see the truck, I only heard the screeching of tires, the blow of metal against metal, and then darkness. I woke up on a stretcher, white lights, hurried voices, pain, a lot of pain. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I tried to speak, but my mouth did not respond. She has 3 fractured ribs, mild head trauma, deep laceration on the right arm. We need to operate to repair internal bleeding. It is urgent. More voices, more movement. I felt them moving me, putting me in an elevator, the ceiling lights passing quickly over my head. And then I heard something that froze my blood. A male voice, professional, talking on the phone. Mr. Ethan Castilla. Silence. "This is Dr. Ernest Myers from St. Raphael's Hospital. Your mother, Mrs. Eleanor Castilla, had a serious car accident. She is here in the ER. We need your authorization for immediate emergency surgery. She has internal bleeding. If we do not operate in the next hour, she may not survive." My heart beat so hard I could hear it in my ears. Silence on the other end. Then my son's voice, clear as water, cold as ice. "Doctor, I am at my mother-in-law's birthday. If she dies, let me know later." The doctor stood motionless. I did too. The nurses around my stretcher exchanged looks. "Mr. Castilla, you understand we are talking about life or death." "I understand perfectly, doctor, but I cannot leave right now. It is my mother-in-law's 70th birthday. You know how these family things are? Operate on my mom if necessary. You are the doctor. That is what you are paid for, right?" Click. He hung up. The doctor lowered the phone slowly. He stood looking at it as if he could not believe what he had just heard. One of the nurses, Lucy, the one who had known me for years, had tears in her eyes. "That wretch," she murmured. Dr. Myers approached me. He took my hand. "Mrs. Castilla, can you hear me?" I nodded slightly. "We are going to operate on you right now. We do not need your son's authorization. You are conscious and can authorize your own surgery. Do you agree?" I nodded again. He leaned closer, so close that only I could hear what he said. "Your son does not know who you really are, does he?" I looked him in the eyes, and at that moment, with my body broken and my soul even more broken, I understood something fundamental. I had been living a lie a lie where I was just mom, just a wife, just the woman who gave and gave without asking for anything in return. But I was Eleanor Castilla, owner of St. Raphael's Hospital heiress to one of the most important medical fortunes in the country, the woman who signed the checks that paid the salary of every person in that hospital, including the doctor who had just heard my son say to let him know if I died, as if it were a pending transaction. "No," I whispered. "He does not know." The doctor squeezed my hand. "When you wake up from surgery, we are going to have a very important conversation, Mrs. Castilla, because I think it is time for your family to know who you are. They took me to surgery. During the 3 hours I was on that operating table, while the doctors repaired my broken ribs, my internal bleeding, my shattered body, something else was being repaired. My dignity. My rage was turning into clarity, into determination, into a plan. I woke up in recovery. It was night, 9:15 according to the wall clock. Dr. Myers was sitting next to my bed reading a file. When I opened my eyes, he smiled. "Welcome back, Mrs. Castilla. The surgery was a success. You are going to be sore for a few weeks, but you are going to recover completely." "Thank you, doctor," I whispered. My throat burned from the intubation tube. "Your husband is in the waiting room. He arrived an hour ago when we notified him that you were out of surgery. He asked how you were and said he had to make some calls. He has not come back in. Of course not. And my son." The doctor shook his head. "He has not called. He has not come." I closed my eyes. His mother-in-law's birthday was more important than his mother's life. "Dr. Myers," I said, opening my eyes again, "how long have you been working at this hospital?" 15 years, ma'am." "And do you know who I really am?" "I have known since the first day. Your father, Dr. Costilla, was my mentor. He hired me personally. He told me, 'Ernest, my daughter, is going to inherit all this. But she prefers to work from the shadows. Respect that. But never forget who the real boss is.'" Tears rolled down my cheeks. My father did know who I was. He did see me. "Tell me one thing, doctor. What would you do if someone you love treated you as if you did not exist?" He remained thoughtful. "I think I would remind them that I do exist, and that they have a lot to lose if they forget that." I smiled, although every muscle in my face hurt. "I'm going to need some documents, doctor, tomorrow when I feel better. Whatever you need, Mrs. Castilla, and I am going to need your absolute discretion. You have it, you always have." That night, Robert finally entered my room. He smelled of expensive cologne, that new cologne he wore to impress Paula. "Eleanor, what a scare you gave me. How are you?" As if he cared. "Sore. But I will live, thank God." When the hospital called me, I almost had a heart attack. I was at a business dinner. I could not come sooner. Business dinner. At the Marquis Hotel, surely. "Did you call Ethan?" He hesitated. "Yes, I sent him a message. He said he would come tomorrow. You know how he is, always busy, at his mother-in-law's birthday while his mother was dying. Robert, I want you to go home. I need to rest. Are you sure?" "I can stay. I am sure." He looked relieved. "Well then, I will see you tomorrow. Rest." He kissed me on the forehead. Mechanical? Loveless? He left the room. I stayed alone in my own hospital, in the hospital my father built, in the hospital I had multiplied, in the hospital where my son had abandoned me. But I was no longer sad. I was furious, and fury, when channeled by a woman who has kept silent for 30 years, is an unstoppable force. I took my phone. I wrote a message to my personal lawyer, Helen Sanders. "Helen, I need to see you tomorrow at the hospital. It is urgent. We are going to make some important changes to my legal documents." She replied in 2 minutes. "I will be there, Eleanor, at whatever time you say." Then I dialed Mr. Estrada, my accountant. "Mrs. Costilla, how are you? I heard about the accident. I am going to be fine. I need you to bring me the account statements of all my properties, investments, and businesses tomorrow. Complete. And I need you to prepare documents to close Robert's access to all joint accounts." Silence. Are you sure, ma'am? Completely sure. And Estrada, there is something else. I want you to cancel all credit cards that are in Ethan's name. All of them. Also the card that is in my name but that he uses. I want you to start the paperwork tomorrow to report it as unauthorized. Understood, ma'am? Anything else? Yes. I want a complete audit of all the expenses Robert has made in the last 2 years. Every dollar, every cent. I want to know exactly how much of my money he spent on his affair. It will be done, Mrs. Castilla. I hung up. I turned off the light in my room, and for the first time in weeks, I slept deeply because I had finally made a decision. I was no longer going to be the invisible woman. I was no longer going to be the one who gave without receiving. I was no longer going to be the fool who confused love with submission. My son had said, "If she dies, let me know later." Well then, the woman he knew had just died on that operating table. The one who woke up was someone completely different, someone they did not know, someone who had all the power, and who was finally ready to use it. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But this was not revenge. It was justice. And justice, I discovered that morning, is served with icy clarity and legal documents. I woke up at 6 in the morning. My body hurt, but my soul was lighter than in years. The nurses came in to check my vitals to change the IV to ask me how I felt. Better, I told them. Much better. And it was true. At 8 in the morning, attorney Helen Sanders arrived. She was carrying a leather briefcase and a serious expression. "Eleanor? What happened? Your message sounded urgent." I told her everything, every detail. Ethan's rejection, Robert's affair, the mother-in-law's birthday, the call. When I finished, Helen was pale with rage. "That son of a—" she murmured. "Sorry, but I just cannot believe it. I could not either. But the time for disbelief has passed. Now I need to act." Helen took out her laptop. "Tell me what you need. First, I want to remove Robert from all my accounts, all of them, so he cannot touch a single dollar of my assets. Done. Since you are the holder of everything, it is a matter of signing some documents and updating with the banks. Second, I want to modify my will. Ethan was the universal heir. I want to change that." Helen looked at me cautiously. "Are you sure? He is your only son. I am completely sure. I am not going to disinherit him completely. He is still my son. But I am going to change the terms. I will establish a trust. He will receive a dignified monthly allowance, but nothing more. Control of the hospital, the properties, the investments, that goes elsewhere." "Where?" "To a foundation I am going to create for women who have been made invisible, who have given everything and received nothing, who need legal, medical, financial support to rebuild their lives." Helen smiled, with tears in her eyes. "Your father would be proud. I hope so." We worked for 2 hours. I signed documents. I authorized changes. I restructured my entire life with the signature of my name. At 10 in the morning, Mr. Estrada arrived with more papers. "Mrs. Castilla here is everything. The expense report for your husband is revealing." He handed me a thick folder. I opened it. $240,000 in 2 years. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry, and apartment trips to Cancun to Cabo to Miami. All with my money. All while telling me he was working. I felt nauseous. And the other thing? Ethan's cards are canceled as of 7 this morning. The car has already been reported. Legally, if he uses it, it is vehicle theft. The blocking procedures are complete. Perfect. Estrada hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? Your son is going to..." "Is going to what, Estrada? Is going to stop talking to me? He already does not talk to me. Is going to move away? He is already far. Is going to think I am a bad mother? He preferred his mother-in-law's birthday to his mother's life. He already thinks the worst of me." He stayed silent. I have nothing left to lose. I continued. But I do have a lot to recover, starting with my dignity. At 11 in the morning, Robert arrived. He brought flowers, a bouquet of white roses he probably bought at the corner stand. "Good morning, my love. How did you wake up?" "Fine. Sit down, Robert. We need to talk." He sat in the chair next to my bed. He put the flowers on the table. I took out the folder Estrada had given me. "What is this?" he asked. "It is a report of all the expenses you have made with my money in the last 2 years. $240,000, Robert. On your mistress." He went white as paper. "Eleanor, do not speak. Just listen." I opened the folder. I took out the photos the detective had given me. I put them on the sheet one by one. Robert at the hotel. Robert kissing Paula. Robert with his hand on her waist. Robert entering the apartment he rented. "Eleanor, please let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been cheating on me with your assistant? That you paid for an apartment with my inheritance? That while I thought you were working, you were with her?" He covered his face with his hands. "It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. But I love you, Eleanor. You are my wife." I laughed, a bitter laugh that hurt my broken ribs. "You love me?" "Robert, you haven't loved me for years. For years I have been invisible to you. I was only useful to pay your bills, to maintain your standard of living, to be the decorative wife who organized your business dinners. That is not true. Yes, it is true. And you know what? I do not care anymore. Because starting today, everything changes." "What do you mean?" "I mean I removed you from all my accounts, that you no longer have access to my money, that Paula's apartment, the one you pay for with my inheritance, is finished, that your corporate card is canceled, that your life of luxury sustained by my wealth is over." He got up from the chair. "You cannot do this. I am your husband. I have rights." "Rights? You signed a prenuptial agreement 30 years ago, remember? At your insistence, because you did not want people to think you were marrying for money. In that agreement, everything I inherited remains mine. You have no right to anything. Eleanor, please, we can go to therapy. We can fix this. There is nothing to fix. I want a divorce, Robert." Silence. He collapsed into the chair again. "Divorce?" "Yes. My lawyer is already preparing the papers. You can stay in the house until you find where to live. I give you a month. After that, if you are still there, I will remove you legally. You cannot do this. 30 years of marriage. 30 years in which I was invisible. 30 years in which my only value was my bank account. It is over." He got up, walked to the door, stopped. "You are going to end up alone, Eleanor. Completely alone." "I am already alone, Robert. The difference is that now I accept it." He left. The door closed behind him, and I breathed. For the first time in 30 years, I breathed completely. At 2 p.m, my phone rang. "Ethan," I answered. "Mom?" His voice sounded altered, almost hysterical. "Tell me, son, what did you do? My cards are not working. I tried to take money from the ATM and it says the account is canceled. I went to use the car and an officer stopped me saying, 'The vehicle is reported as unauthorized.' What is happening? What is happening?" "Ethan, is that I canceled everything." "What?" "Why? Because yesterday I had an accident. A serious accident. The doctor called to tell you they needed to operate on me urgently or I could die. Do you remember what you told him?" Silence. "I do not know what you are talking about. You told him I am at my mother-in-law's birthday. If she dies, let me know later." More silence. "Mom, I do not remember saying that. I was busy. There were a lot of people. Too busy to know if your mother lived or died. Mom, do not be dramatic. You are okay, right? You are alive?" "Yes, Ethan, I am alive. And now I am going to live for real without supporting people who do not value me." "What are you talking about?" "I am talking about how, for 25 years, I gave you everything. Everything you asked for, and much you did not ask for. Your expensive education, your trips, your wedding, your apartment, your car, your entire life. I paid for it. Dad, too. No, Dad didn't. Everything came from my inheritance, from the hospital my father left me. From the investments I multiplied, I paid every dollar you have spent in your life. Absolute silence. No, I did not know that. Because you never asked. Because you assumed. Because it was convenient for you not to know. That way you could keep thinking everything came from your father's effort and that I was just mom. The mom who is in the way. The invasive mom. The mom who is extra. Mom, I never said. Valerie said it, and you allowed it. But do you know what is worst, Ethan? It is not that you rejected me. It is that you did not even care to know if I was alive or dead. I heard his ragged breathing. So what? Are you going to punish me by taking away the money? It is not a punishment, it is a consequence. You are a 32-year-old adult man. It is time you support yourself. I have a son, Mom. I have responsibilities. And I also had responsibilities when I raised you alone while managing an empire. Somehow I made it. I am sure you can too. This is unbelievable. My own mother, your own mother loved you more than you loved her, and she got tired. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from liberation. 10 minutes later, Valerie called me. I did not answer. She left me a voicemail. Mrs. Eleanor, I do not know what Ethan told you, but you cannot do this. We were counting on that money, on the car. Sammy has expenses. How do you expect us to live? I deleted the message without finishing listening to it. That night alone in my hospital room, I received a message from an unknown number. Mrs. Castilla, I am Paula Sandoval. Robert told me that you discovered us. I just want you to know that I love him for real. It was not for money, I replied. Good, because the money ran out. Now you can love him for who he really is. A 62-year-old man without $1 in his pocket. Good luck. I blocked the number. The following days were strange. Robert did not return to the hospital. He sent his secretary to pick up his things from the house. Ethan called me 3 more times. I did not answer any. Valerie sent me messages. I ignored them all. Dr. Myers came to see me twice a day. How do you feel, Mrs. Castilla? Sore, but better every day. I mean, how do you feel in here? He said, pointing to his chest. Light, I replied. For the first time in years, I feel light. He smiled. Your father would be very proud of you. I hope so. A week later, they discharged me. I arrived at my house, that huge house in Highland Park that had been my golden prison. Robert was no longer there. He had left a note on the dining room table. Eleanor, I made mistakes, but this is too cruel. I never thought you would be capable of destroying a family like this. Hope you are happy alone. Destroying a family. No, I did not destroy anything. They destroyed it. I just stopped supporting the ruins. I sat on the back patio in that place where I used to drink coffee 25 years ago. The gardenias were still there, a little neglected, but there. I breathed deep. The air smelled of recent rain and wet earth. And for the first time in decades, I felt at peace because I had learned something fundamental. Love is not enough if it is in only one direction. Family is not sacred if it makes you invisible. And sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find yourself. My son had abandoned me when I needed him most. My husband had betrayed me for years. But I was still here. Eleanor Costilla, owner of my own life. Finally. There are silences that are more eloquent than 1,000 words. The first days alone in that house were the quietest of my life, and the most revealing, without Robert arriving late with his excuses, without Ethan ignoring my calls, without the constant noise of pretending everything was fine, just me, and the truth. A week after leaving the hospital, I received an unexpected visit. It was 10 in the morning. I was in my study reviewing plans for the foundation I planned to create when the doorbell rang. My housekeeper, Carla, the only one who had been with me all these years, entered the room. Ma'am, young Ethan is here. He says he needs to talk to you urgently. My heart skipped a beat. A part of me, that mother part that never dies completely, wanted to run to hug him, wanted to believe he had come to apologize, to say he had been wrong. But the other part, the part that had awakened on that hospital stretcher, knew better. Let him in. Ethan entered. He looked tired. Deep dark circles, wrinkled suit. That shine of privilege he had always had in his eyes had gone out. Mom. Ethan, sit down. He sat on the sofa, the same sofa where he had played as a child, where he had watched cartoons, where I had read him stories before sleeping. How are you? He asked. Recovering. The ribs still hurt, but I will be fine. I am glad. Uncomfortable silence. What did you come for, son? He took a deep breath. I came to talk about what happened, about what you said, about the money. There it was, the true motive. What is there to talk about? Mom, I did not know everything came from you. I always thought Dad. Ethan, please do not insult me with white lies. You could have asked at any time. You could have been curious, but you were never interested in knowing. It suited you not to know. He lowered his gaze. You are right. But, look, I understand you are angry. I understand that what I said on the phone was wrong. But canceling everything? Leaving me with nothing? That is too much, Mom. I have a son. I have expenses. And I also had expenses when I raised you. Somehow I solved them. But you had Grandpa's inheritance. And you have a university degree that I paid for. You have work experience. You are 32 years old, and you are healthy. You can work. He ran his hands through his hair. I work at Dad's firm. He pays me $1,500 a month. That is not enough to live downtown, maintain Sammy, pay for private preschool. Then get a better job, or move to a cheaper place, or tell Valerie to work. There are many options when one wants to solve things. You cannot be serious. I spoke completely seriously. He got up from the sofa, started walking from one side to the other. Do you know what Valerie told me yesterday? That this is your fault, that you spoiled us, that you made us dependent, and now you punish us for that. Something broke inside me. My fault. Ethan, I gave you everything because I loved you, because I wanted you to be happy. I never asked you for anything in return. I just wanted you to see me, to value me, to treat me as if I mattered. You do matter. No, I do not matter. When I was dying in that hospital, you preferred a birthday cake to being with me. When Valerie closed the door in my face, you said nothing. When they made me invisible in my own grandson's life, you allowed it to happen. Mom, I am not your mom. I am your ATM, and that ATM is closed. He stood motionless. So what? That is how it ends? 32 years of being a mother, and that is it? Nothing ends. You are still my son. But I am no longer going to finance your life. I am no longer going to beg for your attention. I am no longer going to plead for crumbs of your time. And am I supposed to thank you? Thank you for leaving me on the street? I did not leave you on the street. I left you to grow, to mature, to learn what it means to support a family with your own effort. He laughed, a bitter laugh. You are incredible, all this speech about dignity and self-love. But in the end, the only thing you are doing is getting revenge. That word hurt more than the broken ribs. It is not revenge, Ethan. Revenge would have been letting you keep believing everything came from your father, keeping being invisible while you lived off my work. This is not revenge. It is simply stopping the lies. Stopping the lies? By taking everything I have? I did not take anything that was yours. Everything you had was mine. I just decided to stop gifting it to you. He approached me. There was something in his eyes I had never seen, something ugly, something that reminded me of Robert. Do you know what I think, Mom? I think you are jealous. Jealous that I have a happy family. Jealous that Valerie is a better mother than you were. Jealous that Sammy loves me more than I loved you. Every word was a stab, but I did not cry. I had no tears left for him. If that is what you need to believe to justify how you treated me, go ahead. Believe it. I did not treat you badly. Ethan, let me ask you something. If Valerie were dying in a hospital and they called you to authorize emergency surgery, what would you do? I would go running, of course. And if Sammy were in that situation, I would drop everything no matter what I was doing. Exactly. Because they matter. But me, I can wait. I can die later. Because Mom is not a real person. Mom is a resource, useful when needed, disposable when in the way. It is not like that. Yes, it is like that. And the worst is that I allowed it to be like that. I taught you that you could treat me as invisible, that you could take everything and give nothing, that my love was infinite and unconditional no matter how you treated me. I got up from the sofa. My body hurt, but I ignored it. That was my fault, not setting boundaries. But I learned. And now, son, I am going to ask you to leave. Just like that, just like that. And what am I supposed to tell Valerie, Sammy? Tell them the truth. That your mother died in that accident, and that the woman who survived is someone you never knew. He walked to the door. He stopped on the threshold. You are going to regret this. Maybe. But I am going to regret it with dignity, which is more than I had for years. He left. The door closed. Carla entered the room. Are you okay, ma'am? Yes, Carla. I am fine. Should I make you a tea? Please. I sat down again. I looked out the window toward the garden. The bougainvilleas were blooming, purple intense alive. They had survived neglect, the storms, time, like me. Days turned into weeks. Ethan did not call again. Valerie sent me one last message. Mrs. Eleanor, I hope you know you are hurting your grandson. Sammy asks for you. But I explained to him that Grandma is very busy being selfish. I blocked her number. Robert sent the divorce papers. I signed them without reading. My lawyer handled the rest. And I started to live. I hired an architect to remodel the house. I took out all the furniture Robert had chosen. I painted the walls colors that I liked. I filled the study with books. I returned to the hospital with renewed energy. I participated actively in meetings. I met every employee by name. I walked the halls without hiding. Good morning, Mrs. Costilla, the nurses told me. Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, Carmen. Existing. Finally, without asking permission. One afternoon, Dr. Myers invited me for coffee in his office. Mrs. Costilla, I have noticed a change in you. A change? You are present. Really present. It is not that you were not before, but now it is different. As if you finally allowed yourself to occupy space. I smiled. It is exactly that, Doctor. I allowed myself to occupy space. Your father would be proud. He always said you had the soul of a lion. You just needed to remember it. It took an accident and a son who abandoned me, but yes, I finally remembered. We drank coffee in comfortable silence. And the foundation? He asked. It is already underway. Eleanor Costilla Foundation for Invisible Women. We will offer legal, medical, and financial support to women who have given everything and received nothing. Operations start next month. It is beautiful, ma'am. It is necessary. There are too many women like me. Too many who believe that love means disappearing. That being a good mother or good wife means having no voice. I want to help them find it. He looked at me with something that looked like admiration. Can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Do you miss your son? The question hurt as it would always hurt. Every day, every damn day, but I missed the son. I thought I had the boy who hugged me, the young man who called me to tell me his dreams. I do not miss the man he became. That man does not know me, and I do not know him. Do you think you can ever reconcile? I do not know. Maybe. If one day he understands what he did, if one day he sees me as a person and not as a resource. But I am not going to beg for that reconciliation. I am not going to sacrifice my dignity for crumbs of affection. You are very brave. It is not bravery, doctor. It is survival. I finally learned that I can survive without them, but I cannot survive without myself. That night, alone, in my remodeled house, I sat on the patio with a glass of red wine. The sky was full of stars, a rarity in the city. I thought about my father, how he built all this for me, how he trusted that I would know what to do with his legacy. "I am sorry, Dad," I whispered to the stars. I took a long time to find my voice to stop making myself small, but finally I did it. And I am going to use everything you gave me to help other women do the same. The wind blew softly. The gardenias released their scent. And I felt for the first time in 30 years that I was exactly where I needed to be. Alone, yes, but complete. Because I had learned the most important lesson. Dignity is not begged for. It is not pleaded for. It is not negotiated. Dignity simply is. And when you lose it, when you hand it over piece by piece to buy love that is not real, you become a ghost in your own life. But I was no longer a ghost. I was Eleanor Costilla. And finally, after decades of silence, I had learned to shout, not with rage, but with truth. They say karma is not revenge. It is simply the universe returning what you sowed. And I was about to see how the harvest arrives without anyone having to plan it twice. 3 months had passed since my accident. 3 months since my life changed completely. The foundation was working better than expected. We had already helped 22 women. Divorces, custody battles, domestic violence, financial fraud. Each case reminded me why this was important. Each woman leaving my office with her head held high was a piece of me healing. The hospital was thriving. We had inaugurated a new pediatrics wing. The doctors greeted me with genuine respect. I was no longer the invisible owner. I was the visible leader. And I was learning to be happy, alone. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I received the first sign. I was in a meeting with the finance team when my phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. "Mrs. Castilla, this is Christine Villarreal, Valerie's mother. I need to speak with you urgently. It is about Ethan and my daughter. Please call me." I looked at the message for a long time. Valerie's mother. The woman who had displaced my place as a grandmother. The one who had facilitated my erasure from Sammy's life. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but curiosity won out. I finished the meeting and dialed the number. "Mrs. Castilla, Mrs. Christine, what do you need?" I heard a sigh on the other end. Tired, defeated. "I need to speak with you in person. It is complicated. I am busy, Mrs. Christine. If you have something to say, you can do it over the phone. Please, just 1 hour of your time, I beg you." There was something in her voice, something broken. "All right. Tomorrow at 3 at the European Cafe in Highland Park. I will be there. Thank you." I hung up. The next day I arrived on time. Mrs. Christine was already there, sitting at a table in the back. She looked different, thinner, older, as if she had aged years and months. I sat in front of her. "What is happening, Mrs. Christine?" She ordered a coffee. I did too. We waited in uncomfortable silence until the waiter left. "I do not know how to say this," she began. "So I am going to be direct. Ethan and Valerie are divorcing." I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. "What?" "Yes. Ethan asked her for a divorce 2 weeks ago. They are already living apart." "Why?" Mrs. Christine lowered her gaze. "Because Ethan blames Valerie for everything that happened with you. He says she manipulated him, that she distanced him from his mother, that she turned him into the man he was." I did not know what to feel. Sadness, satisfaction, rage. And Valerie says it is unfair, that she only wanted the best for her family, that if Ethan has no job or money, it is your fault, not hers. Of course. And Sammy. Mrs. Christine's voice broke. "Sammy is confused. He asks for his dad all the time, and now he asks for you too." My heart skipped a beat. "For me?" "Yes. Valerie told him you were sick, and that is why you were not coming to visit him. But the boy found some old photos of when you held him as a baby, and he asks, 'Where is Grandma Eleanor?'" I closed my eyes. My grandson, who did not know me, was looking for me. "And what do you want from me, Mrs. Christine?" I want to ask for your forgiveness." I opened my eyes sharply. Forgiveness? Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yes. Sorry for having allowed my daughter to treat you like that. Sorry for having displaced you. I thought I was helping Valerie. I thought I was being a good mother supporting her. But I realized something. By helping my daughter erase her mother-in-law, I taught my grandson that grandmothers are disposable. And now that I am seeing how Ethan discards Valerie the same way they discarded you, I understand the damage we did. I did not expect this. I did not expect her pain, her repentance." "Mrs. Christine, let me finish, please. Ethan is destroyed financially. He lost the job at his father's firm because Robert closed the firm. Apparently, his father is also bankrupt. That girl, Paula, left him when the money ran out. Now Ethan lives in a small apartment in a modest neighborhood. He works as a manager at a convenience store. He earns less than $1,000 a month. I felt a strange mix of compassion and justice. And yet he asked Valerie for a divorce. Yes, because he says every time he looks at her, he sees his own mistakes. He sees how he treated you, and he cannot stand it. And Valerie is furious. She says all this is your revenge, that you plan to destroy her marriage, that you are a cruel woman who could not stand seeing her son happy." I laughed, without humor. I did not destroy anything. I just stopped holding it up, and they fell on their own. I know that now. But Valerie does not see it that way. She is talking about suing him for exaggerated alimony. She wants to leave him in ruin. And what do you want me to do? Mrs. Christine looked me in the eye. Nothing. I just wanted you to know that you were right, that what you did, although it hurt us all, was necessary. And I wanted to ask for your forgiveness, for real, from the heart. There was sincerity in her eyes, genuine pain. Do you know what is the saddest thing about all this, Mrs. Christine? That I did not want to be right. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted my son to show me that he loved me beyond the money. I wanted Valerie to turn out to be a good woman who was only protecting her family. I wanted to be paranoid and exaggerating, but I wasn't. No, I wasn't. We finished the coffee in silence. Before leaving, Mrs. Christine took something out of her bag, a photo. "Sammy made this in kindergarten. It is a drawing of his family. Look at it." I took the photo. In the drawing, there were 4 people. One that said Dad, one that said Mom, a small one that said me, and a figure in the corner, bigger, with a heart on the chest. Above it said with crooked letters, Grandma Eleanor. I broke. The tears I had held back for months finally came out. "He remembers you," whispered Mrs. Christine. "I do not know how. He only saw you a few times, but he remembers you. Tell him." My voice broke. "Tell him Grandma Eleanor loves him, always has loved him. I will tell him." Mrs. Christine got up. Before leaving, she put her hand on mine. "If one day you can forgive us, we would be very grateful. But if you cannot, we would understand." She left. I sat there with Sammy's drawing in my hands, crying silently. That night alone at home, I received a call. Robert. I hesitated before answering. "Hello? Eleanor." His voice sounded hoarse, tired. "Can we talk? We are talking. I mean in person. There is nothing to talk about, Robert. The divorce papers are already signed. I know. It is not about that. It is about Ethan. What about Ethan? He is bad, Eleanor. Very bad, depressed. He lost everything. His marriage, his money, his life. He lives in a miserable room. He barely eats. I closed the firm. I went bankrupt. Paula left me. I am living in a cheap hotel downtown. There was something almost satisfying in hearing that, but also something deeply sad. And what do you want me to do, Robert? That you help him. He is your son. He is your son too. You help him. I have nothing, Eleanor. You know that. Everything was yours. I just pretended it was mine. I know. That is why you signed the prenup without reading it, because you knew it was never yours. Please. I know I acted like an idiot. I know I betrayed you. But Ethan does not deserve this. Does not deserve what? The consequences of his own decisions? Eleanor. Robert, for 30 years, I let you take credit for my work. I let you be the important husband while I was the invisible wife. I gave you everything. And how did you pay me? Cheating on me. Stealing from me. Making me feel I was crazy when I questioned you. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. And I believe you. But your repentance arrived when the money ran out. Not when you betrayed me. Not when you made me invisible. When the hotels and gifts for Paula ran out. Silence. Ethan is different, he said finally. He is truly sorry. He has changed. Oh yeah? And how do you know? Because I see him. He goes to therapy. He cries. He talks about you. He says he was a coward, that he did not know how to value you until he lost you. How convenient. Now that he has no money, he discovers he did value me. It is not like that, Eleanor. Talk to him. Just once. Please. No. Why not? Because I am still not ready. Because it still hurts too much. And because I am not going to allow my pain to be negotiable. So what? You leave him to suffer? I do not leave him to suffer. He chose his path. I just stopped rescuing him. I hung up, but Robert's words stayed with me. Was Ethan really sorry? Or just scared of his new reality? A week later, I received an envelope by mail. Inside was a letter, handwritten. With handwriting, I recognized immediately. Ethan's handwriting. Mom, I know I do not deserve for you to read this. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know some things. You were right about everything. I was a bad son, a selfish, manipulatable, cowardly son. I let Valerie erase you from my life because it was easier than facing her. I let them treat you as invisible because that way I did not have to see my own mediocrity. When the doctor called me that night, I did know it was serious. I did understand that you could die, but I was so angry with you for denying me the loan so sunken in my own resentment that I preferred to ignore it. I thought she is fine. She is always fine. She can wait. I will never forgive myself for having thought that. Now I understand what it feels like to be abandoned. Valerie left me as soon as she saw I had no money. My friends disappeared. Dad is broke and bitter. I am alone. And in this loneliness, I finally see you. I see everything you did. Everything you gave. Everything you sacrificed. I see the woman who raised me alone while managing an empire. The woman who paid every dollar of my life and never asked for credit. The woman who loved me unconditionally, even though I did not deserve that love. I work in a store now. I stock products. I attend to customers. I earn $700 a month. I live in a 300-square-foot apartment. I eat beans and rice almost every day. And you know what? It is the best thing that could have happened to me. Because finally I understand what it is to earn a living, what it is to make an effort, what it is to value every dollar, and I understand with a clarity that hurts in my soul what I did to you. I do not ask you to forgive me. I do not ask for money. I do not ask you to fix my life. I only ask you to know that I repent, that I love you, that finally I understood who you are, and that if one day, in some moment of your life, you feel you can give me another chance to be your real son, I will be here waiting as you waited for me for years. I love you, Mom, even though I do not deserve to say it. Ethan, I read the letter 3 times. I cried all 3 times, because a mother never stops loving her son, not even when that son destroys her. But love now came with something new, boundaries, dignity, clarity. I was not going to run to rescue him. I was not going to open the wallet and solve his problems. But I was not going to close the door forever either, because karma had already done its work. Ethan was living exactly what he made me live. the abandonment, the loneliness, the invisibility. And in that dark mirror, finally he saw himself. The question now was, could I forgive? Could I rebuild a relationship with my son? I did not know, not yet. But for the first time in months, I was willing to consider it. Not for him, for me. Because forgiveness is not for the one who hurt you. It is for the one who was hurt. And I deserve to be free, even from my own pain. There are lessons that are only learned when the heart is broken enough to let the light in. 6 months have passed since that letter from Ethan. 6 months in which I have not responded, in which I have lived with myself, in which I have learned to breathe without the weight of resentment. I am sitting on my patio, in this place where it all began so many years ago. The gardenias are in full bloom. The coffee steams in my white porcelain cup, the same cup I used when Ethan was a child. I am 60 years old now, and finally, I feel complete. The foundation has helped 143 women, 143 stories of invisibility that turned into stories of resurrection. Each one of them reminds me why the pain made sense. The hospital opened 2 new wings, pediatric oncology and a mental health center. My father would be proud. And me? I learned to be alone without feeling empty. But today is a different day. Today, Sammy turns 4. And this morning at 7, I received a message from a number I did not have blocked because it was new. Mrs. Eleanor, this is Ethan. I know I do not deserve to ask you this, but Sammy turns 4 today. He's having a small party in a park. Just him, me, and 2 classmates from preschool. Nothing fancy, just cake and games. Sammy would love for his grandma Eleanor to be there. If you decide to come, the party is at 4 at Central Park. I will understand if you do not come. But I needed to try. I read the message 20 times. I called Lenore my lifelong friend. What do I do, Leo? What do you want to do? I do not know. A part of me wants to go running. Another part says it is still too soon, that I have not healed completely. Eleanor, let me ask you something. Is going to that party for Ethan or for Sammy? I stayed quiet. It is for Sammy, I admitted finally. Then go. Not for your son. For your grandson. That boy is not to blame for what happened, and he deserves to meet the extraordinary woman his grandmother is. She was right. At 3 in the afternoon, I got ready. Nothing ostentatious. A simple ivory dress, comfortable shoes, hair up. I bought a gift, a set of illustrated books, tales of animals and adventures. I wrapped it myself with blue paper and a silver bow. I drove toward the park with my heart in my throat. I arrived at 4:10, late on purpose, to assess the situation before committing. I saw them from afar. Ethan was next to a picnic table with a paper tablecloth. There was a small cake, balloons, 3 children running around, and Sammy, my grandson, bigger than I remembered. Dark hair, bright eyes, contagious laughter. I approached slowly. Ethan saw me first. He stood motionless, as if he could not believe I was there. "Mom," he whispered. "Hello, Ethan." We looked at each other. There was so much to say, so much to heal, but it was not the time. "Thanks for coming," he said with a broken voice. "I came for Sammy. I know, and it is enough." He turned toward the children. "Sammy, come here, son. Someone wants to meet you." The boy ran toward us. He had chocolate on his face and a huge smile. "Who is it, Dad?" Ethan knelt next to him. "Remember that drawing you made of Grandma Eleanor?" Sammy's eyes lit up. "Yes, she is your Grandma Eleanor." Sammy looked at me, without fear, without strangeness, with pure curiosity. For real. I knelt too, ignoring the pain in my knees. For real, my heaven. Happy birthday. I handed him the gift. He took it with small hands. He opened it with the typical excitement of a 4-year-old. "Books? I love books." "Yeah? Yes." "My dad reads to me every night." "Would you read to me too?" My heart broke and put itself back together at the same time. "I would love to read to you, my love." Sammy hugged me. "Just like that. without really knowing me, without history between us. Just with that capacity, children have to love without conditions. I hugged him back. He smelled of baby shampoo and cake. I missed you, Grandma, he whispered against my shoulder. I do not know how he could miss me if he barely knew me. But children have a wisdom that we adults lose. I missed you too, my heaven. We spent the afternoon together. We played 8 cake, sang happy birthday. Ethan kept to the sidelines. Respectful, silent. Every now and then our looks crossed. There was regret in his eyes, but also hope. When the party ended and the other children left with their parents, Sammy took my hand. Are you coming to my house, Grandma? I have lots of toys to show you. I looked at Ethan. He nodded slightly. I live near here in a small apartment. It is not it is not fancy, but it is my home. I would like to see it. We walked the 3 of us together, Sammy in the middle holding our hands. The apartment was exactly as he had described. Small, maybe 400 square feet, clean but modest, basic furniture, white walls. But there was something there that was never in the house in Highland Park. Warmth. There were drawings of Sammy on the refrigerator, photos of the 2 of them on the wall, books stacked next to the sofa. It is not much, said Ethan, but it is honest. Everything you see here I paid for with my work. It is beautiful, I said, and I meant it. Sammy dragged me to his room, a small room with a single bed toys organized in boxes and more drawings on the walls. Look, Grandma, this is you, he pointed to a drawing on the wall, a large figure with brown hair and a huge heart on the chest. Me? Yes, Dad showed me photos of you, and I drew you because Dad says you are the strongest woman he knows. Tears arrived without permission. Your dad said that? Yes. He says he made very big mistakes with you, and that he is trying to be a better dad for me, so that I never make the same mistakes with him. I left the room. Ethan was in the kitchen preparing coffee. Sit down, Mom, please. I sat on the small sofa. Ethan brought 2 cups of coffee. He sat in front of me. I do not know where to start, he said. Then do not start, just answer a question. Whatever it is. Did you really change, or are you just scared of being alone? He stayed quiet for a long moment. Both things he admitted finally. I am scared of being alone. I am scared that Sammy will grow up and treat me like I treated you. I am scared of repeating your mistakes and mine. But I also changed for real, because finally I understood the cost of everything. The cost of effort, the cost of money, the cost of love that is given without being valued. And Valerie? She married again, with a businessman, someone with money. She asked me to give up shared custody of Sammy because her new husband does not want another man's children in his life. And what did you say? I said no, that Sammy is my son, and I am going to raise him even if I have to work 3 jobs. We are in court. My lawyer says I have good chances of winning full custody because she is basically abandoning him. Your lawyer? I got her through your foundation. One of the women you helped recommended me to a lawyer who works with men in difficult custody situations. It is not free, but it is affordable. I am paying in installments, my foundation. The circle was closing in ways I never imagined. Mom continued, Ethan, I do not expect you to forgive me tomorrow, nor next month, not even next year. But if you give me the chance, I am going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I learned, that I changed, that finally I understood. And if I can never forgive you completely, then I will live with that, because it is what I deserve. I looked at him, really looked at him. He was no longer the arrogant man who asked for $500,000 as if it were his right. He was no longer the son who preferred a birthday to his mother's life. He was a broken man who was rebuilding himself. I cannot promise you that we will go back to being what we were, I said finally. I do not want us to be what we were, because what we were was broken. I want us to build something new, something real, something based on respect, not on money. Sammy ran out of his room with a book. "Grandma, will you read me this one?" I looked at the book. The Little Prince, my favorite when I was a child. "Of course, my love." Sammy curled up next to me on the sofa. Ethan sat on the other side. And there, in that small apartment on that worn sofa with my grandson in my arms and my son next to me, I read. What is essential is invisible to the eye. I read aloud, and for the first time I understood that phrase completely. What was essential was not the money I gave. It was not the big house or the expensive gifts. It was love, real love, the kind that is given with boundaries, the kind that is received with gratitude, the kind that is honored with actions, not just with words. When I finished reading, Sammy was already asleep in my arms. "Let me put him to bed," said Ethan. He carried him with a tenderness that reminded me of when he was a baby. He returned and sat in front of me. "Thanks for coming today, Mom. Thanks for inviting me. Will you come back? It does not have to be soon, but someday?" "Yes, I will come back. For Sammy, and maybe someday also for you." His eyes filled with tears. "It is more than I deserve. Probably. But a mother's love is like that. It is not always fair. It is just real." I got up to leave. At the door, Ethan stopped me. "Mom, there is something else you need to know." "What?" "Dad is very sick. Lung cancer. Advanced stage. He has no money for treatment. He is in a public hospital." I felt a pang. Small, but there. "And you tell me this because it is your decision. If you want to help him, I would understand. If you do not want to, I would also understand. I just thought you should know. Robert, the man who betrayed me, who stole from me, who made me invisible." "I am going to think about it," I said, "because forgiveness is complicated. It is not a switch you turn on and off. It is a path. Long, painful, but liberating." I drove back home with a lighter heart, not because everything was solved, but because finally I understood something fundamental. Justice is not revenge, karma is not cruelty, and forgiveness is not weakness. They are simply different ways of letting go, of releasing the weight of allowing life to follow its course. That night alone on my patio, I wrote in my diary, "If my story helps a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my pain teaches a mother not to disappear for her children, it will have had meaning. If my broken silence gives a voice to the invisible, then all the suffering was necessary. Because I learned that true love is not the one delivered without limits. It is the one given with dignity, the one received with respect, the one honored with real actions. And although I lost years being invisible, finally I found myself. Eleanor Castilla, 60 years old, mother, grandmother, businesswoman, philanthropist, but above all, woman. Complete, visible, free. And if I can forgive one day, it will be because I decided it. Not because they asked me, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve to be free from the chain of resentment. This is my story, the story I kept too long, but that finally I had the courage to tell, not to destroy anyone, but to save myself, and maybe, just maybe, to save other women who are where I was, invisible, silenced, forgotten. Know this, you too can resurrect. You too can claim your space. You too deserve to be seen. And when you finally decide to do it, you will discover that dignity weighs much less than silence, and that the truth, even if it hurts, always liberates. Always. May God bless you, and may you have the courage that took me 60 years to find. Until next time, thanks for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and activate the bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.